Well, I'm on the farm today and I'm out here in my barn. And I've had several videos here recently on this John Deere 335 round baler. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about it uh, going forward. And I've had a kind of a love-hate relationship with this baler because um, I've had issues with it plugging and 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 the belts not turning when they, when I really needed them to, and just the whole manual tie, single string arm. Um, I just kind of struggled with it a little bit in terms of what I got and how it fits in on this farm, and what I need to do to really transform this thing potentially into a new baler. And so part of that thought process was here over this past summer, I considered buying a brand new John Deere baler and replacing this thing altogether. I looked at a 451M John Deere silage special, and my intent, if I pulled that trigger, was to order it and have it here on the farm next year, and it would be net wrap and twine wrap. And part of my motivation in doing that was just looking at this baler and really, in many ways, dwelling on the downsides of it instead of maybe the upsides. And but I had a little surprise that cast some doubt on whether or not I should unload this baler. And so this baler does not like short, thin, dry grass. And I mean, this stuff right here will cause the belts to slip. The pickup doesn't like to pick it up. Stuff falls down on the compression rack. And I'm kind of the opinion that a baler ought to bale whatever's in front of it, whatever's in the windrow. A baler ought to just bale it, no problems at all. And my 348 John Deere square baler, that's exactly what that does. But so I don't like the idea of the belts not turning, and I've got some. I've talked about this on other videos. It's a little dark in here, but there's some rubber down here. You can't see it on the drive. There's a top and bottom drive roller, and the rubber that's on those is wore pretty thin, and almost to the point where some of it's not even there on a certain portion. There is rubber touching every belt, and especially on top. It's almost like somebody, when I reach it in there with my fingernail, it's almost like somebody replaced that roller, but they didn't replace the one down here. And you need to replace them at the same time, because if the diameters are not the same, the belts will wear the rubber, because they're trying to make one part of the belt go one speed and another part of the belt go to another speed. So this John Deere baler, I was just ready to turn this thing loose, and I had a pleasant surprise, and that was when I got into hay that wasn't short and dry like this, and I kept a field and didn't square bale it intentionally because I wanted to try this baler in quote unquote normal hay. And I was shocked that it took the windrows. I mean, I had a hay wrap on the starter roll one time. I have a video on that, but the baler was telling me to knock it off before that happened. It was getting late in the evening and the dew was coming, and but I persisted in running the baler, and I brought that was not the Baler's fault. Wrapping that starter roll, that was operator error on my part. But one of the guys that has a John Deere 330 that I watch his videos, I've almost got them memorized when he's baling. And these are 4x4 balers, is Vintage Farms, and you need to take a look-see at his channel. So when you're baling with this round baler, these guys right here are the level indicators. So if this one, that black line is down here and this one's up here, you're going to have a cone-shaped bale come out of this baler. This is basically the monitor, and then this tells you how full it is, and then down here this is your twine wrap and increments to stop as you move that twine arm. And then I added this wheel so I could see the twine actually spinning. So Vintage Farm, he had a video where he was pulling his baler, and the way he had his camera positioned in the cab, you could see this in the background. And I was watching one of those videos, maybe a couple of them, and these things were going up at the same time. They'd come down at the same time. They were staying parallel the whole time, and that was a function of his windrows. He had some great windrows, and so when I baled with this thing the last time, I had really good windrows. I set my I doubled up windrows, but then I went back over it with my Vermeer TR90. It's a rake tedder. You've seen it in the videos, and it's got these cages. And I had it set for exactly 4 feet. And this is a 4 foot wide by 4 foot high round baler. And I could set the edge of that front tire right there on the edge of the windrow, and it would fill up that pickup all the way across, and it got me out of weaving in a lot of ways. And sometimes when I'm weaving, I'm struggling to make these things be level by the time I fill the baler. And I'm still in a learning curve on this baler. We just don't make round bales on this farm, but we're gonna. And so I actually had a really good, I went out twice with this thing, and I had a really good baling experience with it both times. And it makes a good, tight 4x4 bale. And, some of the string placement is not the best. That's some of my doings. But also, I think I need to adjust the twine arm when it comes to this side to get the hay further that way. I've wrestled with that before. Some of it is, I think my bales might be a little bit too big, and the hay is interfering with the twine coming off of the arm. So I got to get a tape measure and look at some of the bales I made. But I didn't have any trouble starting a bale. I didn't have any issues with belts slipping. I didn't have any plugs, except the hay wrapped the starter roll one time and bent one of the compression rods, and I took that compression rack out just to see how it would function. Some people say take it out and throw it in the weeds. I'm inclined to put it back in with a full set of compression rods. So what I've decided is to give this thing another run for one more year, and maybe it'll turn into a whole lot of years. And for my customers, the 4x4 is what they want, and so this is an easy baler to pencil out, no more than I got in it. Some things I'm going to do over the winter is these tines down here. They're like 5 inch long. I don't know if you can see those or not. They're like 5 inches long, and I picked up a bucket full of brand new tines at an auction. The balers with the yellow pickup, as I'm to understand, they had the shorter tines, and then when they went to the green pickup on these balers, they went to like a 7 1/4 inch tine, and it makes a difference in picking up the hay. And Vintage Farms, he retroed his pickup with those tines. Probably need to buy 4 or 5, but otherwise I got a whole set. So I bought those on the cheap, and I'm gonna put those in and see how it does, and see if I can find me some compression rods. I may run this thing again without the compression rods, and then I may run it with just the standard count compression rods that are in there, and video that, and then do the same thing with all of them in there, and decide what I want to do. But the pickup on this is the same as a 435, and it makes a 4x6 round baler. And I've seen this type baler, the 330, the 335, the 435, the 430s, and I think even some of the 7 series balers were the same pickup. I don't think that they went with the auger and the packer, I'm going to call them packer forks for lack of a better word, that set in behind that pickup until, I want to say, the 8 series, but maybe some of the mega wide pickups on some of the 7 series had them. But when you look at videos, you can tell when that pickup is the same width as your bale. You basically have a set of tines, and that's it on your pickup. And I've seen videos of these things going into hay and big windrows that would get into the drawbar, and it just takes them. It just eats the hay like crazy, and I think there's no reason why this thing can't do that. Maybe with a little bit of a little massaging here, and also what I called earlier normal hay. And so I'm going to hang on to this thing for another year, and I hope it turns into longer than that. The one thing I don't like is it's slow with just one tine arm. It's slow, but and really net wrap bales have a better appearance, and they just sell better. People buy based on what things look like, not necessarily what's under the string or the net. And what I got to do is convince the hay customers that I got a string tied bale here, but what's under my string is as good or better than anybody else's net wrap bale. And I think I can do that. So some other things that I might do with this baler. So these diamond tread belts, there's supposed to be 3 steps in them. And when you get down to the first step, you need to replace the belt. Well, this one's 2, it's down to the second step. And they actually feel pretty good, but they feel kind of slick. And I don't know if they're just kind of old and stiff. I think probably if I run them, maybe that'll limber them up. But probably I'm gonna get a spare belt. There's a long one and a short one. There's 2 short ones. I think that's that, and then 4 longer ones. and just kind of keep them handy. And if I break a belt, I can put them on. But I've thought about putting a whole new set of belts on here. And I've thought about putting new drive rollers on the top and the bottom. So once I spend the money on belts and drive rollers, I've got more money spent on this baler than what I paid for it. I could go out and buy another used baler for similar money, but I may be faced with the same issues that might run up the tabs. And so when I look at this baler, it's just one thing that appeals to me about it. It is just drop dead simple. And that played in my decision on whether to keep it or sell it. I had it open, doing some greasing and checking some things. And you just look at this thing, and all it is bearings and rollers. It's like a rolling pin that you might mash out dough to make, biscuits with. And there's it just happens that two of the rollers have rubber on them to grip the belts and make them pull. But I mean, it's just a really simple baler, and I'm thinking I don't know that I would do it, but if a man went through or a woman went through and replaced every bearing on this baler, and the rolls were otherwise okay, they'd have a brand new baler. They'd basically have a brand new baler. And if I open this side up over here, so, and then the chains on this side, there's 1, 2, 3 right there, and I think the pickup runs off of a belt that was on the other side. And so it's just a really simple baler. In fact, there's a lot of parallels with the Hestons, and K&H Tractor has a Heston round baler. And when I look at the insides of those things, they're very, very similar. There's no spring on this one. The arms on this tension is hydraulic, and I think the Heston 540, 1745, they have a hydraulic cylinder, but they also have springs. Now, one of the problems I had with this baler is when the belts would not turn. I think that was operator error at one level, and that was I don't think I had the gate fully closed, and if it's not, the belts will most definitely spin or stall. And then one thing I noticed this year was this hose right here was leaking. And I think this might have been causing some of my issues too. And I replaced this hose back in the summer. And I think that that cylinder might have been leaking a little bit, letting the gate come open because of the old hose that had developed just an ever so slight leak. But when you're talking pressures up close to 2,500 psi, that can manifest itself in a way that you don't want to. When I look at the sprockets on here, they're not like super sharp. I don't know that I need to replace any sprockets or chains just yet. I do need to tighten that one up. I'm inclined to take this baler and run it and fix what I need to fix. For example, if the belts break, then I put new belts on it. If the drive rollers, the rubber continues to come off and I need problems, I replace the drive rollers. If I need to replace a chain, I replace a chain. If a hose blows, I replace a hose. The goal here is not to just dive into this thing and change everything just for the sake of doing so. It may run just like it is for as long as I bale hay. I may not have any issues at all now that I have more experience running it, and I kind of better know how this thing likes to be ran. And another thing I changed that I think I was doing wrong, that was causing the gate to come open a little bit, is I would kick the gate up with the hydraulic remote on the tractor, and when I would bring it down to close, I had my motion on the hydraulic lever hidden towards the float position, and I think I probably bumped the float a little bit, and that would have let it open just ever so slightly. So I've changed that, the way I do, the way I operate this baler. So when it's going up, I'm pulling the lever towards the float position, but when it's coming closed, I'm putting it going in the other direction where there is no float. It's pulling that cylinder all the way back tight, and I think that might have contributed to letting that gate open a little bit, and maybe letting the belts slip. So the first thing is just do the what's the most economical, and that's going to be replace those tines down there like I talked about earlier. I've got them, so I might as well put them on, and I might make an adjustment to that twine arm. I better understand how that thing works, and then over time I may upgrade the belts. I might upgrade the drive rollers. If I put that kind of money into this baler, then if I decide to buy a new baler, I would keep this one as a backup. And the reason for that is when you're baling hay to sell, and in particular to sell to horse customers, the hay has you got to get it up, and it's got to be nice. You can't be waiting 2 or 3 days on parts. Or if we were feeding our own cattle, we had cattle up here again, and we were feeding our own cattle, I'd be like, I could care less. But when we got horse customers and we want to get the price of the round bale up, we need to make a quality bale. And having a second baler, even that's something new, you might have an electrical glitch that takes you out of the field. So the only electrical on this is a buzzer that tells you. I'll come around here and show you. So there's a limit switch, and it hits one of these rollers right here. You can set those, and it'll give you a warning, and then it'll give you a second warning at which time you better stop, because this has come down close to the red or into the red. And another thing, oddly enough, I like about this baler is, and maybe I shouldn't, but it's got a shear pin for the that's down on that bottom side, but here's the one I broke that was in my other video. But there's no slip clutch adjustment. You can't get it wrong with that shear pin, and if it shears, then something's going on that you need to address. Maybe, I don't know if the windrows are too big, the hay's too wet, what's going on. But as long as that little bolt snaps, then I don't feel like I'm going to shell out the gearbox on the baler, break a roll in the baler, or do some damage to the PTO shaft or the PTO on the tractor. So and I'll talk about a few more things on this baler in a separate video. But for now, this baler's going to live another day. Like I said in the beginning here, I was pleasantly surprised that it rolled as good of a bale as it did and as easy as it did. And I didn't want to, going into possibly buying a new baler, knowing had I not baled that hay, I'd have probably bought the new baler. But when this thing pounded out like some really nice round bales, in spite of where I'm laying the string on them, but good tight 4x4 bales, and I mean really tight. I felt like, and my wife and I talked about it, and we're like, you might be making a mistake here and kicking a good baler to the curb that could still serve a good purpose on this farm. And if we decide to buy a new baler later, we can do that. It's not a problem, to do that. And a new baler would be a generational purchase. I would use it as long as I could farm, and then my kids, I hope, that maybe they could use it for as long as they would want to bale hay up here on this farm. And so, yeah, living another day. The John Deere 335. When I bought this thing, I read great stuff about them and how, they just made a good round bale, and I kind of drifted from that with my issues with the short, light hay and the bale slipping, and I've over the past several years, I've kind of come to know the baler. I really got to know it here the last couple of times I went out. I went back and looked at other people's videos, Vintage Farms videos. I looked at my own videos where we had a camcorder going, and I could see this thing drive by the camera, and I could see the hay going in the pickup and the bales that were coming out of the back. I'm like, this baler can still deliver the mail, and I'm not sure I should be trading it on another baler or replacing it. And, if I bought a new baler, I would probably now keep this one, especially if I spend a pile of money on it in upgrades. I'm not sure the ticket is to buy another baler that's equal in value with this or even double what this one is, because, if this one needs belts, another used baler might need belts. If it needs bearings, another used baler might need bearings. So it's kind of like you dance with the devil you know, so to speak. And but I tell you, if I do a total rebuild on this thing, I basically have a brand new baler, except faded sheet metal. So we're going to run it again next year, and unfortunately our hay season's over, and I'm out of hay to try it with. But want to make some incremental improvements here that don't cost a lot. Like I said, those pickup teeth, I've got those pickup tines. I picked them up at a farm auction a couple of years ago, and we'll put those things on. And might pick up some more compression rods from my compression rack. No reason I can't use used compression rods on those, and then I might I'm gonna run these belts and see how they do, and at some point I might put a new set of belts in them, and if push comes to shove and I need new drive rollers, I might bite the bullet and put those in there. So the cam pickup down there is pretty simple. The cam on the pickup's pretty simple, I think, from what I can see in the parts catalog and then some videos online. But yeah, we're gonna stick with the 335 John Deere and hope for the best going into next year. And I'll have more on my hay baling strategies as we get on towards the end of the year, and usually do some kind of a business plan video. I'll get into that, and I'll probably have another video on this baler and talk about it some. But for now, this is what I'm gonna stick with, and we'll just see how it goes. Talk to you later.